None of us are perfect at prospecting. We all make mistakes. Things that we know that we need to do that we forget about, and some things that we are ignorant to, that we didn't know at all. Perhaps you're new to sales, or perhaps you've not done a lot of prospecting in your previous sales role, but now you have to. Today, my friend Diane is going to talk to us about some of those mistakes, how we can remedy those mistakes, and how we can prepare so we can become the most effective when we're reaching out to new or cold prospects. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald Kelly, the Sales Evangelist, and I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. And on this episode, we have Miss Diane Helbig, and Diane she has a podcast. She has 2 books of her own, and Diane has a company where she works a lot with sales individuals, with entrepreneurs, business owners. The issues that Diane helps them with is really around fixing a lot of their business problems. And those business problems oftentimes tie back to sales. She has a wealth of knowledge, years of experience. So she's going to give us some of those wisdom that she's seen working with small and large organizations, some of the biggest challenges that they're facing, especially when it comes towards prospecting and the mistakes they're making, and how we can remedy that, especially if we ourselves don't realize some of those things we're doing are mistakes. Anyways, let's go ahead and dive straight in, listen to Diane, and see how we can help improve our sales skills. Welcome to the show, Diane.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Oh, man, I'm so excited to have you. This is one of my favorite topics, actually, prospecting. I feel many people have different part of the sales process, which they love, but I feel that when I first started, I was put in inside sales. So going out prospecting was always great to get the person's attention and then, helping them see value. So I'm looking forward to pick your brain on that. But before we dive into all that fun stuff, you have a lot of knowledge. You've written 2 books. You have a podcast yourself. And I was bragging about you there in the introduction. But my words can only go so far. I want to hear from you. Tell us a little bit more about you and what you do, Diane.
Oh, well, thanks. So I work mainly with small business owners and salespeople. I do advising and training. So whatever they're struggling with, I try and help them figure out a better, more realistic way of getting things done, totally organic, because my belief is we all come to our business with ourselves, and we have to behave in a way that's comfortable for us and authentic and genuine, and that's when we're most successful.
Oh, we're gonna come back to that and tie back into that a little bit here as we're going throughout this episode, because I do feel that when you talk about prospecting and when you talk about the act of reaching out to someone, I feel personally, I'm going to take ownership. I felt that I had to put on a persona when I'm reaching out to someone. And sometimes, I'm not going to lie, I feel that it's still there when I make a call to someone I don't know. I want them to see that, we're a successful business and all of this stuff. But why do we get into this idea? You've seen that with clients. Why do we try to put on this persona, so to speak, as opposed to trying to be authentic and being being who we are?
Boy, it's a great question. And I think there are 2 reasons. One reason I believe is because we've been trained, we've been told that we are supposed to behave a certain way. So whether it's comfortable or not, we're going to try and do it, because that's what we've been told. The way to be successful in sales is you got to be like X. You got to say certain things, and right?
Yeah.
The other reason is because we are uncomfortable with the whole idea of selling. It has a bad rap. We have had experiences with salespeople that were not necessarily great, and we don't want to be that person. So we get all hung up in, okay, I have to be something that's going to be better, and it ends up being terrible.
Stop looking into my life, Diane.
Sorry to call you out, but
No, I've done that. It's like, this is like Donald started when I started off. And I remember when my first sales trainer who went through his program, and next thing I know, the words that he used and the way he did a script and so forth, I was doing exactly the way that Bernie did it. And I was like, it's not me. I don't think I could say that. And I was fumbling because it wasn't me.
Because what we're supposed to do is take that stuff and figure out what we like and then make it our own.
Yes.
So it is coming from us, right? So
Yeah.
that we are comfortable with it, because that's when we're most connective.
Mm. That's cool. So this is good. I mean, great idea. So we're supposed to, or we are uncomfortable, and we fall onto those. So that makes sense. Well, I was curious about that. So we're going deeper into this dialogue now, because
Yeah.
what we want to hit on today are the mistakes, and I feel that's probably one of the mistakes. But are there, maybe you could tell us some of the mistakes that you see, the common mistakes that salespeople make when they're prospecting, and then we can dive down into each of them.
Sure.
Fair enough.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are your
So,
top three?
okay. So my top is that salespeople believe that everyone is a prospect.
Come
So
on, they're breathing.
no, I'm sorry, but
Dang it.
I know it's such a bummer, but it's really, they are not. Let's just say everyone is not a target group, right?
Yeah.
So that would be number one. Number two is believing that what they are seeking is a sale instead
Mm,
of a meeting.
interesting.
So it's all about where we are in our head. I mean, all of it is about where we are in our head. But that's a biggie. And the third one is talking more than we're listening. And for me, that's true throughout the sales process. It's especially important during prospecting, um, because when we're talking, we're trying to convince, and there's no
Hmm.
convincing in sales. There's none. You can't. We got to
Interesting.
stop thinking. If I was just eloquent enough, they
Why?
would buy.
Why is it not convincing? Because that goes counterintuitive to everything that we've learned from all the great sales movies out there that are total
Right.
farce, by the way. But that we have to convince you today on this call that you have to buy it. But why do you say that?
Because you can't convince people of anything. People will buy from you when you have something they need or want and they trust you. But when we approach a conversation thinking that we need to convince them, that's about us, not them. And really, sales is about solving a problem. Sales is about connecting whatever you have to what that person needs or want, or that company needs or wants. And you don't know that. And when salespeople assume that because this person looks like, a potentially good, well, then they must need what I have to sell. I just have to explain it to them. This is where buyer's remorse comes from.
Mm,
So if someone gets convinced into buying something, there are some people, they're not happy about it.
yeah.
They don't like you, right? There's a good chance they're going to cancel the order and their credit card payment. I mean, it's just, and then where are you?
Hmm.
You don't have a good long-term relationship with them. They certainly don't trust you. They won't refer you. It's a disaster. We shouldn't want to try and convince people that they need what we have.
Yeah. Oh, I love that one. So I want to go back to number one, because I feel that ties right back to this. Number one
Yeah.
was everyone is not a prospect.
Yes.
I learned that the hard way. I've had countless episodes where I talk about that, so I'm not even going to go into it. My audience member listening, and she's like, "Mm-hmm. I remember you telling us that story, Donald. I ain't making a mistake like you did again." But tell us from your experience, why do we fall to that prey, or to that false notion that everyone is a prospect?
Yeah. Because we are told by sales trainers and sales managers
Hmm.
that it is up to us to sell them, that they need or want what we have to sell. And as long as we can convince them, well, it goes back to convincing, actually.
Hmm.
So, first of all, everyone does not need what you have to sell, and everybody doesn't want what you have to sell. And you don't want to work with everybody, because some people are jerks. You don't want to work. I mean, I got to call it. You want someone else to work with them, but you don't want 100% of the market. So what salespeople don't realize is they should be evaluating the prospect just like the prospect is evaluating them, because it's a relationship. And we get to say as salespeople whether we can help them and whether we want to. And if it doesn't jive, we should not want to. And we should be okay with that. And when we can look at the marketplace that way, we approach it with more curiosity we're in more of a curious brain than we are in a selling brain. And so we're much more attractive to people. We're much more comfortable in our own skin. We're much better communicators. That's when it works. We end up doing business with the people we're supposed to do business with.
Yeah.
And we don't miss the people who we should be doing business with, but because we're so consumed with, I got to get everybody, we miss really good relationships. If you approach everybody you meet as a client, as a potential client, you're missing out on referral partners, associates, friends, business colleagues, awful people. You're missing all of that because you're so laser focused. It's just bad.
I think when you come with that idea of the curiosity, it's been a word that has been in my vocabulary, or in my conversations for the past week. I've had a couple conversations where we've been talking about curiosity. And I think where, like you said, when you go with the curious mindset into a prospect conversation, it doesn't leave room for desperation.
Yes.
Right? Because I feel if I'm going in desperate, I can't be curious. I am desperate to get the sale. Not even like you're saying, we'll go into that. I'm desperate to getting the sale. So I am willing to, like you mentioned, I shouldn't do, ramble for the whole time, and bulldozing the prospect with my pitch, hoping that she will say, or he will say, yes, I want to buy what you have to offer. But if I go with a curious mindset, I don't even know if I can really help you. You seem like a good fit for our brand or our organization based on our buyer profile, but I want to be curious about this and to see if you experience the same problem, because I'm going to be picky, because I'm Donald Kelly. I'm not going to bring anybody into our house. It's those who I want to bring in. Is that the idea?
Seriously, yes. Like, did you get married on your first date?
No. And I'm glad I didn't with many of the people that I dated the first time.
Thank you so much, right? And even if you knew you were going to marry the person, you still dated them for a while to really make sure that this made sense, that you learned all of the, crazy things. So
I more so wanted them to be able to at that point, wait for me, I mean, to evaluate me. I wanted that process to say, okay, well, is Donald a good
right, because you want it to be a really good relationship, right?
Yeah.
I mean, we should be in this for the long haul, not the quick kill kind of thing. And so when we're curious, we're not thinking about ourselves and our mortgage and our that stuff. We're thinking about them. And that is actually easier for everybody to do. It's more comfortable. It's more natural, which is another reason why it works better.
So let's go down to the next point. The second point was believing that, I think it was believing they believe what they are, they don't believe what they're selling, or something to that nature. Is that what you said?
That they are seeking the sale instead of the meeting.
Sorry.
Is that the one? Yeah.
They're
okay.
Seeking, they believe, and they want to sell the person. The way I wrote it down, instead of thinking that they want to get the appointment. But let's dialogue that. Reason with me on that one. Tell me about why is that such a big mistake?
Okay, it's because when we're looking for the sale, we are focused on closing a deal, right? Mm-hmm. And this is where our head is, and we're not listening. We're not noticing the signals that we're getting from the person. We're pushy. So because our head is on, I gotta sell. The truth is, we don't, as you said a couple minutes ago, we have to figure out whether we want to be in a relationship with them, right? Whether this makes sense for us. So what we really want is just a meeting, so that we can do discovery, so that we can get to know them a little better and they can get to know us a little better, and we can see if it makes sense for us to continue the conversation and go to that step of, okay, let me propose a solution to you. But when we are always seeking the sale, we are so laser focused on selling that A, we miss everything, and B, and this is probably the biggest one, we're obnoxious. And no one wants to be around us. So
Yeah.
we end up getting the exact opposite, right?
Yeah.
I'm trying to build relationships and no one wants to be anywhere around me because they know I'm going to be trying to convince them that I got the greatest thing since sliced bread. And of course they would want it. Why wouldn't they want it?
Yeah. No, yeah, it's really interesting. That's fascinating when you put it like that. Like I feel that too many times, I guess put it like baseball, where you try to swing for the fences when sometimes it makes total sense just to get on base, just to get to the first base. So just find a little opening and get to that spot. And
Yes.
I think it's glamorized too much that we do the one call close. And especially if you, I mean, I think realistically, anyone who's, especially the BDRs listening to this episode, you can't imagine that you can just get that sale. This is an enterprise deal you're going after. Even if it's like the entrepreneur that's, he's listened to this episode and he's running his business, it's not, it's rarely the situation in a B2B setting where you're going to knock out and close on that call. I think that's like a crazy bluebird situation, but it usually will come from, let's have a further discussion. Let's talk.
Right.
Let me bring my partner in. Let me bring the IT manager in as well. You know what I mean?
Because it's about trust.
Yeah.
And trust takes time. People are not going to, and this is something, that salespeople do. They say, well, I'm an insurance agent, so of course you should trust me. I have 18 years. No,
I don't
I
know
don't
you.
know you, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, it is insane as far as I'm concerned. And it comes from old teaching, always be
Yeah.
closing, right?
I hate that.
It's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
I mean, then you're always in sales brain.
Yeah. You gotta change that up a little bit. You can't
Yeah.
close. You can't close something that you don't have anyway. So.
Ah, that's good. I like
Oh
that.
man. And then the third one, we kind of talked about it a little bit earlier as well. But the third mistake that they make, they're talking more than they're listening. Let's go break that up a little bit more. We kind of went into it a little bit, but let's go deeper into it. Why is this such a huge mistake at times?
Yeah. So first of all, because whoever they're talking to hasn't really given them permission
Mm.
to tell them everything about their product or service. So, it's a presumption that is very off-putting, number one. So, they're sort of jumping over the gate and saying, I'm just going to assume that you want to hear everything about my product or service. So I'm just going to tell you. And they like hijack the conversation, which only pushes the prospect away. So number one, so once again, they're not really building the relationship. The other thing is, the more a salesperson is talking,
Yeah.
the less they're learning. So if we're not learning about our prospect, if we're not learning about not just the situation that they're in, but how they decision make, what their budget tolerance is, what their timeline is, there's so many things about them. Have they dealt with a company like ours before? What was it like? There's so many questions that we need to be asking. If we're doing most of the talking, we are not finding any of that out, which means we are jumping to conclusions about them. And the chances are we are going to be wrong.
Mm.
So even if they say yes, which is a long shot, there's a really good possibility we're going to end up in a business relationship that is not good for our business.
Yeah. And I think we've all, if you've heard that, if you've had that experience before, I'm sure you can figuratively raise your hand right now, right? As a sales rep. Yeah. We've all had those. We brought them on. And I remember as a first going into a company, and I was so eager to bring a deal in that I would put these deal together and then realize after it's said and done, we have a new customer, but they weren't a great fit, or nor was the fact that it wasn't profitable for the company.
Right.
And you don't want to be that sales rep that brings the meager deals. You want somebody to bring like some fat on that bone. We can eat off of.
Exactly right.
What other ideas can you tell a sales rep that's going to help him or her help them as they're having the conversation with a buyer, to ensure that they can listen more than they're actually talking? Any strategy or any preparation guide or idea that you would tell them?
Sure. I think there are a couple things. The first thing that I would say is when you identify your target markets, and remember, it's not everybody, right? You have
Yeah.
certain target markets and you pick one that you're going to go after. Really research who's in that market before you do your outreach so that when you do outreach, you have something to talk to them about as far as for connecting with them.
Yeah.
You can make it clear that you know about them. You've taken the time and the energy that you care. That's number one. When you get the meeting, it's my personal belief that we need to have a list of questions that we have written down so we're sure we ask them. And we take notes while we're doing that because that forces us to listen without wanting to ask the next question, right? Like we have to really realize these questions are important and they are questions beyond the situation. So you can ask questions about the situation and then you need to ask more questions like what would success look like? Like how will they know if this is successful? How do they deal with conflict? Like, if they've had a situation with a vendor before where something went wrong, how do they handle that? What would they prefer a vendor to do? You're trying to really learn about who they are and how they interact in the world. Because if you're going to have a really good, successful relationship with them, all of those things have to be in the yes checkbox, right? Their values have to meet your values. Their way of doing business has to equal your way of doing business for the most part.
Yeah.
We all have ideal client personas, and we should use those to set the ground rules. It doesn't mean they're the only people or companies we're going to work with, but they at least keep us away from the deadbeats, right? Because we can go, no, no, no. So, and the last thing I will say about this is, I think the last thing, that if you are asking questions and the prospect isn't answering them, there's a reason they're not answering them. And one could be because they don't want to do business with you.
Mm-hmm.
Another could be because they still haven't gotten to a point of really trusting you.
Yeah.
And if that, in order to find out, you have to be able as the salesperson to say, okay, can you help me understand why this is a question that you feel uncomfortable answering, right? And we have to be able to say, in order for me to know whether I can really help you, I need to know all these things. I'm sure you don't want to get to the point where we go through the whole thing, I give you a proposal, and then you say, oh, yeah, but no, no, right?
We've all been there. We don't want that anymore.
No, we don't. And we have to be willing to walk away. We have to be willing to say, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be able to, I'm not the best resource for you.
Yeah. And that takes a level of maturity again. And going
Yeah.
back to I think about what you said about curiosity, because if I am authentically curious and I get that authentic understanding, then I need to be authentic to myself and to say,
Yeah.
I want to make this work, Diane. Unfortunately, I don't feel that we are the best fit for what you're doing. But you know what? I can recommend you to XYZ because it seems like, they would probably be a good fit for you. I've done that before,
Right.
and it
Yeah,
made the
which
relationship
is
much better.
great.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, it's perfect. Right.
Well, Diane, if there's one major takeaway from these mistakes or one major piece of advice you want to give someone listening to this episode so that she can walk away with, what's that one major piece of advice?
I'm going to say, get out of sales brain and into curious brain, no matter where you are, no matter who you're talking to.
Yeah.
You will find it much easier, much more enjoyable, more comfortable, and it will do more for your sales effort than being in sales brain.
Absolutely love it. Diane, you also have 2 books that you have on the market. Do you mind telling us what those books are?
I would love to. Thank you. The first one is Lemonade Stand Selling. Selling is as easy as it was when you were a child, believe it or not. And the new one that is just now available in Kindle, an ebook, is Succeed Without Selling. The more you think about selling, the less you will sell.
Love it. Love it.
Right.
All right. And you also have your podcast, which is succeed. I think I wrote it down wrong here. Excellence in business growth. Is that
Accelerate your business
accelerate
growth.
your business growth?
Yeah.
All right. We'll
Yeah.
put that in our show notes. And if you're watching this on
Great.
YouTube TV, just go down below and you'll see it in the comments. I'll put the right link, Donald. Diane, I truly enjoyed the conversation today. I felt that we had a very authentic talk, and I was genuinely curious. And I think many of our listeners have been well fed today from your insights. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, thank you so much. I enjoyed it too.
That is Diane Helbig, and if you would like to connect with Diane to learn about her podcast or to learn about her books, simply, if you're watching this on TSE TV here on YouTube, just go ahead and scroll down. You'll see the links below. But if you're listening to the podcast, click on the cover art, and you see all the information there in the show summary that we put together for you. If you want to get more details, you can go back to our website, thesalesevangelist.com, or to our studio, tsestudio.io/thesalesevangelist, and you'll get a chance to check out the shows and see some of the details there as well. While you're there, I want you to check out Interrupt. This is the newest podcast launched by TSE Studios, which is one of our sister podcasts, and I'm just loving this podcast, and I want you to go ahead and be the first on the list. You can go ahead and drop off your email. Even if you don't think that this is something that might benefit you right now, perhaps there's someone you know that can benefit from this podcast. Go ahead and tell them about the show. Would greatly appreciate that. I want to go ahead and tell you thank you so much for listening. Our goal today is to help you. We want you to find more of those ideal customers. We want you to know what to say when you actually call them and talk to them. We want you to know how to close the deal. But most importantly, we want to challenge you to go out each and every single day and do big things. Thanks so much for watching. Hey, thanks so much for taking the time to watch this video today. If you enjoyed the content, I ask you to go ahead and hit that like button, that thumbs up at the bottom right-hand corner. Also, to make sure to subscribe if you haven't done so already. This way, we'll keep you up to date with all the latest sales strategies, latest tools, and things that are going to help you to not only find more prospects, but to close more deals. Thanks so much.